Hey, what's good, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, and you're watching Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And joining me, as always, is my co-host from the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast, Rebellious D. D, how are you doing today?
Swell, brother. How are you?
Hey, I am doing swell. As everybody can see, we are down a man. Terrific Trav. Where's he at this time, D?
Triple T.
Yeah, triple.
Hey, in the
Last time he
Gamby
was in
Cave.
space.
In the Gamby Cave. The Gamby Cave, brother. He's doing some work.
Oh, snap. Oh my God, man. Oh, weakness. But we have a very special guest joining us today. She is somebody that is killing it in the voice actor game right now. And somebody whose DMs I have been sliding into, and we finally got her up here, and I'm really excited about that. And that is voice actress Anairis Quiñones. Anairis, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you, swell dude?
Hey, I am doing fantastic as well. D, what about you?
I'm swell. I can say I'm swell.
Yeah,
Okay. You're not going to turn to fantastic?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. D, you need to be fantastic.
Fantastically well?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we can be the Fantastic Three, we can do that.
Yeah.
I like that.
No pressure to be however kind of way. You can be however. It's fine.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, Anairis, thank you so much for joining us up here. We're celebrating Black History Month up here on our podcast. And we've been having a really good month so far. And we're going to keep on having a good month. And we're going to go ahead and get into this interview because we got some fun stories to tell, some interesting things that have happened to us today. And I'm ready to get into it. So before we get into today's interview, everybody that's watching, make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you hit that bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And D, like you say every time,
as always, other episodes of the podcast found in the description. Like, follow, subscribe to the page. And thank you all for watching and listening.
Right, that's right. And if Trav was here, he would have his tip of the day. But the tip of the day that I'll have is make sure that you have good time management, because if you don't have good time management, then you'll get jumbled up with a bunch of things at once and you might get in trouble. So yeah, that's my tip of the day. So
ADHD, it's a wrap. Sorry.
Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this thing. So Anairis, the first question that I ask each and every guest up here is, what is your origin story? Every hero or villain has one. And what I really love about this is because you do voice a hero, the number 5 hero. So you're not a villain, you're a hero. So tell everybody your origin story.
Villain's ass, yeah. My origin story. Well, I was born in Florida, little alligator cave there. And I, grew up in Central Florida. I lived in a very white town, so wasn't really exposed to much diversity or whatever. But I did love stories, and I always loved stories, and I feel like I felt more alive when watching Disney movies or reading books or whatever. Like, I was more into that than like socializing. I was a shy kid. Who knows, maybe my anxiety was there that early. I don't know, psychology. But yeah, and then we moved to Georgia when I was like 10 years old. And my dad and my mom put me in school there, and I flourished a lot more there because it was more diverse. I was around other Black people, and I was like, oh, cool, I feel so comfortable. I didn't know this was a thing, because I'm just so used to being quiet and respectful and not really saying anything. So that really brought me out of my shell. And with finding Black community, I also found nerd community, because around the same time I was getting into anime, and they really threw me into that world and made it super normal, and that's when I got into stuff like I was really into Kingdom Hearts 2 at the time. I was into Fullmetal Alchemist, like Code Geass, a lot of the classics really of like back then. And I always like the darker stuff, and I still do to this day. But yeah, it was just fun. And as I was getting into anime and stuff, kind of figured out, oh, hey, I'm recognizing some voices here and there. And that's when I figured out, oh, there's voice actors, and this person sounds like this person from here. And I think I always had a really good ear for it, but I didn't really recognize like the real people until I was older. And like one of the dubs I really really loved was Full Metal Alchemist, because to me that it made like so many original decisions for localization. I feel like now the trend for dubbing is like, oh, how close can we sound to the Japanese? But you know, they were kind of doing their own thing, and it still sounded really good. And so I was in love with it. I liked doing impressions of all the characters. I got involved in the voice acting community, because online there's a community for everything, and that was cool because I just was having fun. I was being a kid. I would, you know, have school, come home from school, try and do like a comic dub or whatever, and then balance that with my work and stuff. But it was a hobby at first, and I remember when I was like 13, this was before Brotherhood came out, right? Brotherhood was like, it was happening.
I think 2010, 2011, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
Happening, but it wasn't like fully done yet, right? And so I really wanted to voice Mei Chang. Because it was like, oh, I was like always into like the little girl characters, especially the bratty ones. Like I don't know why at the time, probably because I identified with them, even though I'm not bratty. but yeah, I was so I remember sending my materials over to Funimation, and by materials I mean just like a badly, terribly mixed demo. And I was like, this is my chance. And then I actually got an email back relatively quickly, and they were like, hey, if you're local, we'd love to have you audition for, you know, our open auditions and stuff. And I'm like, Dad, can we transfer your job over to Texas, please? And he's like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, dang it. So, you know, those plans were thwarted, but would return later. And yeah, so I was balancing school with my hobby, and I always ended up prioritizing school more because, you know, actors don't do very well, and I figured like, oh, I should have like a real job, to have around and have under my belt, because life is difficult, and yeah, let me just over prepare. So I went to college, and around the time I went to college, I started getting more paying work, like from the online sphere. Like I would, like sometimes the animators I worked with were like, hey, here's some money, and I'm like, oh, you didn't have to, but thank you. And then I worked with like a lot of video game devs, and then, you know, and eventually I got so used to like kind of getting money, then I started working like more exclusively on original stuff because it was just funner and collaborative and stuff. And so I just kind of like made that a side job alongside with like working at an anime store, and working at my college, and working at a mental health facility. And then eventually I found that I was more interested in voice acting than I was those jobs, even though I love those jobs. And so I wasn't like really committed, because I'm like, well, I don't see a lot of people who look like me in the industry, so I don't want to, you know, go for it and then I fail simply because of the color of my skin. I don't want that. I would hate that. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just do my thing, blah, blah, blah. And then I got, and this, you know, obviously before the pandemic, I got an audition for a cute little anime called Kimono Friends, and they had like so many girls, and I auditioned for every single girl because I'm like, maybe, just maybe I'll get into it. I don't know. And then I did. I was working a shift at the mental health facility at the time. We were closing up and making sure that all our paperwork was done, and then I checked my email, specifically in my junk folder, and I see, congratulations, you've been cast as Crested Porcupine. I'm like, what?
That's awesome.
What?
Hell yeah.
And I'm like, no way. So I was like super excited. And then I made the plans to fly over to Texas. So I did that. And that was like my first time actually being in a recording studio and getting to do anime and all that stuff. And it felt very right to me. Like, I felt, I guess like my experience there felt more fulfilling to me, more fulfilling to my soul, I guess. And so at that point, I started planning to go to Texas. And so once I finished my associates, because I was like, let me at least finish that, I moved to Texas, and I got in with the studios very quickly. But then I had a family emergency, so I came back, and very shortly after that family emergency, there was the pandemic, and, you know, I was stuck in Florida, which I didn't mind, because it's like, well, I guess I'd rather be, you know, with family than being alone somewhere I'm not really used to. Well,
yeah, for sure.
Crazy virus out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, dang, I have to put it on hold again. But then not really, because you know, remote recording had to happen in order to keep things going, and remote recording made it so that anyone could work, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I remember, like, one of the very first auditions I got. Yeah, I think this was like the first remote audition I got was actually for Pokemon Twilight Wings, and I was like, oh, holy shit. Pokemon, oh my god, like, I never thought I would get like a Pokemon audition in my inbox ever in my life. Like, I just wanted to do anime or just do like creating things, but I was like, oh, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, it's like Nessa and Sonia that's in there, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I'm not gonna book this, but I'm gonna do my best, you know. So I did, and I didn't hear anything for a while, and then I did, and I was like reading the email like, what does this say? And then I processed what it said, and I was like, oh shit, I've been cast as Nessa. What the hell? And I was like, it's super exciting, and I was super nervous because it's like, oh, this is like a higher profile project and stuff. And so I like really wanted to do my best, but Nessa was like a really fun character for me, and I guess from there it just kind of snowballed.
She said it.
I had a feeling it was coming.
Like it would just like keep going from there, and like before I knew it, like especially like once it hit August of that year, I was basically working like every day.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And it took me like a really long time to process, holy shit, I'm here. Because I always figure, I guess how I like to say it is like, you know, I'd spent so much time building up experience that at that point I only really needed the opportunity and I guess the luck. So when I got the opportunity, you know, and it was like, okay, cool, you're in. But then it was like the luck of like everything that was going on, and yeah, and here I am. So I feel very blessed. I didn't expect to get to where I am now. So
I mean, that was a really good origin story, and you gave me so much to piggyback off of, and D, I'm pretty sure that she gave you so much to piggyback off of. So we're about to hit some combo breakers right now, bro.
Lead us off, Cal.
All right, so the first thing that I want to piggyback off of was you said growing up that you really enjoy watching Disney movies. Now, this is a question that I always love asking because everybody always has, sometimes they have the same answer, but you never know. Give me your top 5 favorite Disney movies. It can be animated or 3D drawn.
What about live action?
Live action too. Live action. Yeah, there you go.
The animated ones are better.
Yeah.
Shoot. Okay. In no particular order.
Yeah, no particular order. Yep.
I really couldn't figure it out. Atlantis, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frickety Frackety, Moana. What are all the other ones that came out? Google. Wait, Disney movies. Brother Bear. That's another one.
Okay.
That's another one. And
don't get that one a lot.
This?
I know.
Encanto.
Okay, so what's crazy about that is 3 of the 5 movies that you named, I watched for the first time last year when I had COVID, and that was, I know. And look at D. D wants to shake his head.
All I can do.
Oh my god.
Atlantis, Moana, and what was the other one that you had said? Not Encanto and not Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Brother Bear.
Yeah.
Brother Bear.
Thanks.
Those were the 3 that I watched. And like one of my really good friends, Megan, like those are some of their favorite movies. And I was just like, so should we watch the sequels now that we watched the originals? And they was just like, no, we don't watch The Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, and we don't watch Brother Bear 2.
Yeah, they follow.
And you definitely got to be careful with those sequels. Those Disney sequels will get you.
Not all.
They always follow.
I mean, no, but I'm saying there's some of them that are good. Like the second Aladdin, I think is really good.
All three Aladdins are good, man.
Nah, I don't know about that.
Did kind of like Mulan too.
Yeah, it was okay.
Because I like the.
Not bad. See?
Like, I feel like there's usually like a downgrade in like everything when it comes to sequels, but I felt like that wasn't too much of a downgrade, and I like.
Yeah, that's a decent one.
Yeah.
How Shang and like Mulan were having their issues, and the boys were finding their loves. And the music was actually really good still.
Exactly. And then, if we would have never got the Lion King 2, we never would have got the zebra saying deception. Great.
Well, yeah, that's enough. Those are good ones though. But then the Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 is not.
There's that girl, that blonde girl.
Yep.
Her name was like Melody or something. Somehow they had like Esmeralda and the dude had a kid that had no melanin whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck that happened.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wild. And it's like I remember watching the trailer on YouTube for it, and I think it was Jennifer Love Hewitt, I think, that voiced the blonde chick. And she was just like, yeah, you should really watch this movie. It's good. And somebody in the comments was just like, I wonder how much they paid her to say that, because the movie was not that good at all, man. So that was my first question to ask. D, I'll let you ask the second one.
Okay. Back to the very, very beginning. You named an anime that's very dear to a lot of people, and that's Full Metal Alchemist. I gotta ask, what are your favorite two characters from the series?
I mean, the default's always Ed and Al, to be honest.
I mean, they go together like, peanut butter and jelly, salt and pepper.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
That's fair. I just thought it was an interesting question because, it's such an array of characters. That's why I asked it. Yeah.
I know with Brotherhood,
yeah,
that's when, like, I really liked Lan Fan a lot. I thought she was
hell yeah.
cute, but also, like, badass character. I like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I used to like Mei Chang. I don't think I quite like her as much now. It's been a while. I need to like rewatch, but in general, there wasn't really a character I disliked.
Yeah, I just thought some of them were just weird. Even the bad guys, they're just weird people.
Exactly. Like Gluttony was weird. You know?
Oh well, yeah, all of them.
I wasn't like the president of his hater club. Like.
Yeah, you just gotta hate stuff.
Yeah.
And whined.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue and piggyback off the Full Metal Alchemist stuff because you said when you watched the series that you used to impersonate the voices, and I feel like everybody that is a voice actor, because like I have taken some voice acting classes, and when I was younger, I used to do the same thing. And then I got to make sure that I shout him out, Matthew David Rudd. If anybody's interested in taking some voice acting classes, he's a really good teacher. He works with you. Like the class doesn't move until you get the lines down, and he's a really good teacher. So I highly recommend his classes. Plus, we interviewed him, and you can either listen to the interview on our podcast or you can check it out up here on YouTube. But when I was a kid, I used to impersonate voices like Dragon Ball Z, Goku, Vegeta, stuff like that.
You were ripping up your voice young, huh?
Oh yeah, screaming. It's crazy because they joke me now because I went from going and yelling for going Super Saiyan to now just screaming plus Ultra all the time. I mean, you see I got the Deku trying back there. But I want to know, like, who were some of the characters that you really loved impersonating the most?
Ooh, I always wished that my Al was better because at the time, like when I was into it, I was like 10 or 11, and my voice naturally basically sounded like Rainy from Sailor Moon. Like that was just my voice naturally. So I always wished I could sound more like Al, but I don't think it was ever quite perfect. I really liked my Wrath, like 2003 Wrath.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That was like a fun one to do, and then. My Hawkeye. How could I forget my Hawkeye?
Ooh.
Because of that voice, that's how I learned to like help expand my lower range. And that's kind of like one of my, I forget the term, but like one of the words I use to help me get into that lower, more commanding range, like or not the word, I don't use that word, I use Colonel Mustang, and then that helps me like get there, you know?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like that. One last thing I want to say before I pass the ball back to you, D. Something else that you had mentioned when you had sent over like a demo to Funimation. We had interviewed Cedric L. Williams, and I remember one of the things that he was telling us when he first started, he recorded a demo in his room, and he said that it was horrible, but he was just like, you got to start somewhere. And you know, I think that it's awesome that, you know, you started getting into anime, you were impersonating the voices, and you're just like, man, I want to send this off and see what happens. It's the same thing like with me, because I'm a professional wrestler. And, you know, back then...
Really? That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't got my tag title here in the room with me right now, but, you know, back when I was younger, I didn't even know how to look for a wrestling school. And then when I did find them, I had to go to a different state. And, you know, my mom, she wasn't going to send me to no other state by myself. So
Right,
for you to have that opportunity to, you know, just, I want to record this and send it in, I think that that's awesome. And plus now it's way easier to, you know, get into voice acting now, because like how you had said, with everything being remote, like there's so many people that I see now that, you know, are getting opportunities because it's so easy to access voice acting now. So
yeah, it's really cool to see like all the new folks, and especially like new people of color that feel confident enough to go for it now. It's like, yes, that's, you guys are gonna be part of the next generation. Let's go. But you know, as you say that, like I think I've like always been super ambitious ever since I was a kid, and I think one of my defining characteristics when it came to starting this, that still, I guess, helps me to this day, is the fact that I worked my ass off, you know, and like I didn't care what the project was, you know, college animation, Newgrounds animation, visual novel, like whatever. I didn't really care. Like I would just do it, and it was fun. And when I wanted to like get in with more industry contacts, like, you know, I would always put myself out there every chance I get. I'd do every single audition, blah blah blah. So it's just like, you know, being very relentless, I guess. Letting silence discourage you.
I like that. Go ahead, D.
I guess I could piggyback myself here, and on the same kind of theme, if you had any advice, what are a few tips you would give people looking to get into voice acting? You know, it seemed like you had a pretty interesting road, you know, to get there. So give them two tips, you know, for anybody who would want to get into it.
Tip of the day.
Hell yeah.
One is, you know, find the fun in it, you know, whether you find it immediately through auditioning for anime, if you get to, or if you find it from just, you know, playing a game like Undertale and doing the voices. Like, this industry is like super hard, and the more further you get into it, the easier it can be for it to kind of destroy your inner peace, you know? So you gotta find the fun, because when you're not getting work, or when things get difficult or whatever, like, that fun will be the only thing that helps you get through those rough patches. And another thing is, I like to tell people to not rush themselves, because I feel like, especially now, as there's like a wider barrier of entry, folks are just like, oh, I want to make money immediately, and I'm gonna, you know, start working on My Hero in two months. That's the goal. And it's like, I mean, if you do, impressive, honestly. But that's not gonna happen. So like, be realistic, and, you know, don't rush through things. You don't need to get an XLR mic like the next day, unless you just so happen to have disposable money like that. You know, you could just like be comfortable with the pace you're going at, and just let things happen as they are. I am a very firm believer of whatever is meant for you will not pass you.
Mm.
So even if like you miss an opportunity that seems really cool and it feels like it's the only time you'll get the opportunity, it wasn't meant for you.
Yep.
Because it was like, it would work out, so
Yeah.
just, trust the path, God's path, whatever you believe in, like just trust your journey.
I like that. I like
And
it.
I want to piggyback off of something that you had said. Like, even if you do have the money, it's still not always wise to like buy the most expensive stuff, because you can buy the most expensive stuff and still not get to where you want to be at. Like, I know, like when I started my wrestling career, there were guys that would pay the money like up front, and then they would only last for like a few months. And it's just like, yeah, man, you shouldn't have done that, because you should always want to like try to get your foot in the door somewhere and at least learn it to see if it's for you or not. And it's the same thing with voice acting, like how you were just saying. It's just, you can't just think that you're just going to get into this industry and just skyrocket straight to the top. You have to pay your dues. You have to put in the work. You have to do those Waller roles until somebody hears your voice and they're like, hey, this person has a voice that I think that I want to use for this project. And that's not something that's going to always happen in the snap of a finger like that. So
exactly.
You plant your seeds, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Gotta be willing to grind. I mean, it's just like buying the best basketball shoes, and I can't dribble a lick.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta put the time in. It's just how things go.
So I want to ask you now, like, if you weren't voice acting, like, what would be something that you would be doing in your career right now?
I would probably still be going down the psychology path, because I really want still, I think, to be a therapist. Like I mentioned, I worked at a mental health facility for a while, and before that I worked at my college. And I think when I was working at my college, I kind of figured out that I find a lot of joy out of helping people, whether it's like helping them go through like their little application so that they can not worry about having to get into school, or just like just helping them get through an hour of their life or whatever. Like I enjoy that. And like having that mental health facility job was like a great testing ground to see if I really enjoyed that, because there I worked with I was, I guess, basically a nurse, but not really. I was considered a mental health tech, and my job was to look after the people in my area. And there were like all kinds of folks, from age 18 to 70 something. And they either had schizophrenia or depression, suicidal thoughts or attempts, or struggled with addiction, like all kinds of things. And I used to give them medication, make sure they had their medication on time, make sure they had their meals on time, make sure they were eating, make sure they did their chores so that they can have like a routine that can help them, and make sure they never got like too, like if they had an episode of anything, just helping ground them and everything, and also keeping note of every single thing they were doing, so that because the therapist would basically see like what we written down and just gauge them from there. So it was like super I guess difficult job, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was fun getting to know the folks there. Most of them were way older than me. I remember I had this one client who none of the other techs could ever get him to do his chores, and some of them were like, you gotta do the chores, you don't do the chores, like they were just channeling their energy, I guess. But I could never get him to do anything, because he was just he usually hung out outside and just wandered around and just didn't really want to listen to anyone. But I felt also like not all the techs, but some of the techs kind of forgot they were interacting with humans. So, I would ask him nicely, hey, can you do the thing? No? Can you do the one thing? And he's like, maybe, okay. And I checked in on him, not even to ask him to do his chores. I'd be like, how you doing? What's going on? And over time, like I was literally the only one that could get him to do his chores.
Yeah.
Like he was nice to me. He I think he was like not quite in his right mind a lot, but I think he, respected me and I respected him, and we had that rapport. And I was always really proud of like, you know, how much he could achieve, I guess, when I was on shift. Maybe he wouldn't do it with anyone else, but it's like, oh, yeah, you're doing the thing. That's good. I'm proud of you. So yeah, long story short, I would love to be a therapist and just help people.
Yeah, I just have a quick question about that. Was that something that you thought you would be able to do prior to getting to the college level? Like just helping people in general? It seems like it's such a specific job.
It is, yeah.
Like, was it just something you envisioned yourself being, like I could tolerate this. I think I could really just help people. Is that how you came into that?
I think the very, very first, like, I guess tip I had that I could do it was, I was in high school sophomore year. Mm-hmm. Sophomore year was terrible. I was depressed and, just in a really bad mental space. And I remember, I felt really alone that year because I was forced to transfer schools because we were redistricting because Obama won, and they were like, no, can't let that happen again. So yeah, I was there and I felt very alone in that school. And so in the morning, instead of like wandering around or hanging out with anyone or trying to find a place to hang out, I guess, I would just go to the bathroom and just be miserable there, Yeah. And I remember there was a girl in the stall next to me who was crying, like she was upset. And, I was concerned and, I could have ignored it because I was going through my own shit, right? But I was worried, so I like ripped off a piece of my notebook paper and like wrote down, "Hey, are you okay?" and like slid it over. And then she replied, and and I think I kind of helped her feel better, like acknowledging her. Mm-hmm. Like I remember she ran out and her friends tried to talk to her, but she wasn't in the mood. But I think being able to be like, "Hey, are you okay?" and what's going on, and that made me happy, mm-hmm. And for the time being, it's like, oh, I could kind of forget that I was in a bad spot, you know? Oh, I'm helping person, and that kind of makes me feel good because, I guess like very much like when it comes to depression, you can like hate yourself very much, but you do something good and it's like, oh, I have purpose, I can do things, so that was the earliest instance. But just in general, I've always been like I'm a great listener. I had a lot of friends who sometimes they took advantage of that just because of my personality type. I wasn't really good at setting boundaries when I was younger. But in general, like I like checking in with people and trying to be honest with how we're feeling and thinking and stuff, because we're all humans, we go through stuff.
So you're basically a natural at it.
I like to think so, yeah.
But she's like me when it comes to that stuff. I know like one of my friends was telling me that it's like I'm like a giant boat, and then I throw out the lifesavers to people. Isn't that what they're called?
Yep.
And people, they hang on to those lifesavers for so long that eventually it's like the boat starts to sink, and then they don't let those lifesavers go because they want you to be there to help them all the time and whatnot. And like how you were saying, you do have to set those boundaries, because if you don't, then it's just like you start getting depressed. And it just excuse me, it always sucks when you're in a place where you're not doing well mentally and people aren't there for you. And it's kind of weird because I always say like I'm the number one hero and all this stuff. And one of my favorite quotes from My Hero Academia is when Uraraka had said to Deku, "Who helps heroes when they need help?" because it's like they're always there helping other people, but like when they're going through stuff, like who do they turn to? And like that's why My Hero Academia is one of my favorite animes, and it's something that I can really relate to a lot, especially with Deku being like one of my favorite characters right now in anime, because he's very relatable. Like we've all been through that. Like if there's something that we wanted to do in our lives and to be told that we can't do it or we shouldn't do it. Like when I wanted to be a wrestler and I would tell people that, people would be like, oh, that's stuff that white people do. Black people shouldn't wrestle. You need to get a real job, stuff like that. And I don't think that you should ever tell somebody that they shouldn't do something that they want to do, because you don't know what that person may be able to accomplish because you're trying to deter them from doing what they want to do in their life. Because we all only have one life to live. So it's like you should try to do everything and anything possible to achieve the goals that you want to set for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you Banks, you already know I'm a firm believer in things like crabs in a barrel. And, you know, when one tries to get out and do something, the other one's pulling right back in. So, I mean, it's just, there's so many instances where people shouldn't do that kind of stuff, but that's just the way, you know, that's just how the cookie crumbles, you know? You're always going to have people that want to doubt what you do. They go based off of what they know they can't do, you know? And then they try to push that on to you, so.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes.
Like,
We'll go ahead and answer that.
I know you're good. You have me think of Steven Universe because I think that was like a great show that showed that kind of character, you know, like that was very empathetic, but also would try to fix things so often. And, you know, you see in Steven Universe Future, like how that affects him.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like Future, but I
love Future.
I love it.
It's very sad.
Yeah, I love like how it just is like, hey, no, like there is consequences to this too. I always loved Steven Universe because it's always been very honest.
Yep.
Especially about mental health. And, you know, the way that Steven was covered and Future was so good. And I think it's important to see that so that, you know, natural empaths or people that are just really good at like giving but don't really think too good to themselves, like it reminds them, hey, you know, you gotta be able to take care of yourself. You gotta give it to yourself because you can't help others if you're down for the count.
That's right.
Exactly. So let me ask you, what's your favorite song from Steven Universe?
Oh,
me and D sing them all the time to each other.
They're all I love them all.
Yeah, they're all really good. I mean, it's kind of like
I like
Love Like You is really nice.
That's good. Yeah. I love that one too. I love singing Here We Are in the Future.
Here we are. That soundtrack was really good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's so much good music. I mean, well done.
So good. And I do love Here Comes a Thought. That's another one I love. Of course, Stronger Than You, you know.
Yep.
I think classics. They all.
I would kind of, in a weird way, I would kind of put Steven Universe's soundtrack up there with like a Cowboy Bebop. It's like it's very like there's just a bunch of classics. I don't know how else to say it. Like they're just good albums. They would make good albums, I guess, or they are good albums. So
yeah.
Hell yeah, it's just. I mean, I don't know, but to widen up. You know, since we're here talking about anime and stuff, and it's partly why you became the person that you are and whatnot. What were some of your favorite anime characters growing up?
Ooh, my favorite ones. I liked Sailor Mini Moon, Chibi Moon.
Hell yeah.
I like.
You know what I'm saying?
In love by daylight.
I find now that I'm older that I like Sailor Moon herself a lot more.
Yeah.
Like when you're younger, it's like, oh, why is she so whiny and stuff? But it's like, oh, that same girl. I get you.
Yeah.
Like, you just want to sleep? Same.
It's one of the best parts of watching anime then and then growing up a little bit. And you're like, you just becoming an adult, you just understand things more. Yeah. Like, oh, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why they said that.
I mean, what you got to think, man, when you're fighting sneakers and spray cans and
man, take it
bottles,
easy. Take it easy.
I love Sailor Moon, but it's like I'm gonna call it out when I see the funniest. I mean, it was Power Rangers because I mean they did that same stuff on Power Rangers. They would be fighting like a pumpkin.
or a giant frog.
A giant frog.
Yeah.
Hey, frogs are terrifying. For
Yeah, they can be.
Hey, look, if it was a giant water bug, I would die. That's all I'm going
to say. Oh, same.
Sure. Hell yeah.
Giant cat or spider, snake, I'm out.
Yeah,
man.
I'm out.
And there was one time we were doing an interview, and water bugs in Virginia, they always come out like in the wintertime, summertime. Yeah. And we were doing the interview, and I had my my video game cases. They were hanging on the ledge of the entertainment stand, and they had fell over. And I was just like, yo, like, what is that? And I was like, I just gotta keep a straight face. And like, I just kept hearing rattling noise. And look, I'm sitting here like, I think we were interviewing Aaron Phillips, and y'all can check out his interview here on YouTube or listen to it on the podcast. And like, I just saw something fly across, and I was like, Jesus, can we please finish this interview? Can we please finish it?
No, disgusting little buggers. No good. Not good.
Because they be trying to kill me. Like, they either trying to they want to kill me, or they want to take over my body. That's what they want to do.
Or
man.
Both.
You watch those horror movies, man. Like, that's what they trying to do.
They're crazy. Yeah. They just be invading space for no reason. You know, I have when I was living in Florida, I still have a cat and dog now, but when I was living in Florida, I had 2 cats, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, Florida, you're having like summer-like weather year round. So
yeah.
You can see them year round. And I remember I was hanging out in bed. I was having another late night because insomnia, and my cat comes over, and she just drops something on the floor, and I'm like,
oh God, yeah.
And I look over, and it's a freaking cockroach, and I'm like, what? Put that away. And like and I didn't know what to do, because I'm like, well, you put it in my room, and I don't want to touch it, and nothing. Yeah. So like I decided to sleep in like the guest room that night, but she's just like, you know, like, look, master, I have you.
Brought you a tribute.
It's like the trophy. Like, yeah, my cat used to do that all the time too, and I would appreciate it that they were killing the water bugs before they tried to kill me.
The thing is, she wouldn't do that.
Oh, she would
alive.
Oh no.
That was the worst part.
Oh. Anairis, I would have hopped up like Scooby-Doo and Shaggy and ran out the room. That's me.
That's what I did. I'm like, all right, let me grab the important pillows and blankets. I'm out.
That is not good.
Yeah, it is wild, because like when I was a kid, like I used to scream, and like my mom and my brother would be like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "It's a water bug." And like they would just laugh at me. I was just like, y'all don't understand. Like, they should not be that big. And
there's just no reason. What is the evolutionary reason? Like,
yeah, they're kind of weird.
Yo,
like, why do they exist?
Exactly.
It's like wasps. Like, they have no reason to exist.
Exactly. Man, look, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna go to kill a water bug one day, and I'm gonna have the shoe on the water bug, and I'm gonna be like, that's right, you stay dead, water bug. And the water bug is gonna talk to me and say, no. I'm like, what?
Hey, you ever seen that anime? I don't remember the name of it, but there's like an anime about cockroach people.
Oh my
yes. God. I can't, is it Terrace or something like that? Yeah, it's
they're like JoJo buff and stuff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're like huge and very, very creepy. It's just something about them, they're very creepy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm actually brought that up. Yeah, you should, Banks.
No.
Come over and watch it. Pop some popcorn.
Have the lights off, maybe rattling. Don't worry about it.
Oh my! I'm mad. I'm mad that we're sitting here talking about water bugs and roaches, but it's like my fear of them came from. It was this movie. I can't remember the name of it, but me and Dee, we've talked about it before. Where it's like a cockroach had made it with a South African cockroach, and then they created like these super roaches.
Oh yeah, they nest.
Yeah, and then the roaches.
Great movie.
The only way that
so
the super roaches could keep reproducing, they had to go inside human bodies.
Yeah, they're using
their eggs. So like that's why I always thought that
that movie is so creepy. I mean,
I didn't watch that when I was a kid.
Yeah, Madagascar hissing. I think they're called hissing cockroaches because they can make noise, kind of like
yeah, man, it's
hissing.
Wild.
Yeah, hissing. Like the really big ones, they'll hiss.
Yeah, like
they usually have them at zoos and stuff like that.
Oh, I don't want that at a zoo.
Yeah, they're huge. They're like the size of rats. They're huge.
I don't understand how people can go to a zoo and then let the people put the roaches on their hand. Like, nah,
no,
dude. I think it was Isaiah, my son, when we did his birthday party. They brought one of those out and let people touch it and stuff, among other animals. But it was just, they're so big. It's so weird.
I would have killed it. They
Bugs are just so,
They would have banned me from the zoo. But look,
how you know they ain't laying eggs on you?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. See, people don't be thinking like that. But look, let's get away from bugs because like I keep on sitting here rubbing my hands and
I wanted to tell you, Banks, we've been talking and kind of debating about the 3 different Twilight Zones. And I believe there's a Twilight Zone episode. It's either Twilight Zone or an old show called Tales from the Dark Side. And there's a guy, and he's got this office building, and he starts seeing bugs.
No, that's Twilight Zone. It's the movie.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. By the end, it's like his whole office is filled up with like bugs,
cockroaches. Yeah.
I've
seen that, and it scared me.
I was thinking about you.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue.
Anairis, because I had mentioned earlier about My Hero Academia, and you voiced Mirko up there. I gotta ask you, like, how did you come into getting that role? Like, how was the audition like, and how was your reaction when you found out that you were going to be a part of the series?
Oh my god, the thing is, I remember like when I first started watching My Hero, which is basically when it first started airing, and I was still working at the anime store. So that I got that role basically like 2 months after Nessa came out. The Pokemon Twilight Wings episode came out. I was hearing about her on Twitter because everybody was simping over her, rightfully so. And I guess we were getting closer to that part, and Zeno, like, as soon as he heard about the character, he's like, "Oh, hi, you're really great, blah, blah, blah." And he was just heavily campaigning for me to play the character. And I'm like, haha, that's not gonna happen, because I'm not on Funny's radar like that. Because I had done Walla with Funny once. And I had also I had come in for an audition once. And then I remember they invited me to do Walla again, but I was living in Florida and I wasn't gonna spend the money to go there and back. It didn't make sense. So, and very often if you turn down Walla, they're like, "Oh, you're not available for Walla? Well, you're not available for anything." And it's like, that's not what happened. So I was like, oh, no, I'm barely in with Funimation. Colleen definitely doesn't know me. That's not gonna happen. But then it did happen, Colleen herself, the director, sent me the audition, and I was like, oh my god, this is it. This is the audition. And I was like excited, and I remember I spent a lot of time listening to the My Hero soundtrack so I could like pump myself up.
Hell yeah.
I second guessed myself like more than I needed to, because I think Mirko in general is like a character that's in my toolbox. Like that kind of spunkiness was already there. But I remember reading ahead in the I remember reading ahead in the manga, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what exactly is the context, because we had in the audition itself, it had lines from like, these last scenes we had with her. So like they weren't just, they knew what was gonna happen with her, so they want to make sure they had somebody who could do the action, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, there was something I broke there.
It's the water bugs. They're just
Toolbox.
like, you can escape us.
Welcome to hell.
So I made sure to do a really good job, and I was anxious about it, but I kind of had in my head like, oh, this is my one guaranteed chance to play Mirko in this audition. Let me have fun. Let me just do it. So I did. And then I didn't hear back for 2 weeks, and I was like, I didn't get it. I'm like, I should have heard back the next day, just like impatient, like, because it's like a big thing. And usually I'm very good at like sending and forgetting, but when it's those kind of high profile projects, like it's hard to get out of your mind. But I remember, like, I kept seeing Mirko around. Like, I kept, like, seeing, like, people would tag me out of nowhere about her, or maybe, like, I would just, like, come across, like, it kept happening. I'm like, what you doing, God? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're doing. And so part of me was like, is this God saying, I got you? Or is this God being like mean? Like I couldn't tell. But then I got the news that I got it, and I was like, oh my God. Yay! And it was really cool. I was nervous during the first session. You know, because it's like my first time working on my hero and all that stuff. And the remote, I recorded that first session remote, and that was like a very, like, we were doing a really weird situation for the recording. So I think the tech really distracted me from like the performance, because for some reason they had me recording on Adobe Premiere Pro and like having to sync things myself. And that I don't, even for now, I don't do that. So I was like, I don't know what we doing, blah, 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 blah. So that was kind of stressful, but I feel like I got more confident with her as, you know, her scenes would come back. And I was very, very much looking forward to like this past arc with her, because that's what it was building up to, right? Like that was her defining moment. This, like, nobody would really know who she was before, but this is the thing that would cement her as, this is a badass bitch everybody
Yes,
knows.
exactly. Yeah. I love Mirko, man. I love her.
I know, and I had fun. It was fun. It was fucking so much fun, and I'm really looking forward. So
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Before you say something, I just want to say, because when we had interviewed Ryan Cote Levy, he was telling us that he had auditioned for, I can't remember what character he auditioned for, but he auditioned, and like how you were saying with Colleen, like he didn't get the role, and then she reached out later on, and it was just like, we got this character, it's Rhodey Soul, and it's just like, I feel like that always happens, because I mean, Dee always mentions this too about like people who do voiceover work in Genshin Impact. It's just like they always do like a small role, and it's just like then they end up getting that big.
A lot of them get brought back to do a main character.
yeah, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I got to audition for like the Sumeru characters, and I remember getting like a couple callbacks for the characters, but I've already done NPCs, and I don't know what's gonna happen, but
yeah, we'll see. Well, hey, well, I'll know if I see your name pop up, because I am an avid Genshin player.
Yeah, and Anairis, it's like we always say, everybody that comes up here on the podcast, it's like, D, what always happens?
They punch the ticket to Genshin Land.
That's yeah.
Great. I'll be sure to thank you when I have that.
And we'll hook you up with some breadsticks once you get it.
Just hit that slow motion fist pump like Breakfast Club at the end. That's all you gotta do. We don't need no emails, no text message. Just hit the pose. But one other one we wanted to bring up was you voice Kimberly in Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
What's it like just being a part of Street Fighter? Is like it's like a staple fighting game franchise. So what's that like being a part of it?
Well, I don't personally play fighting games. Let me say that.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone knows Street Fighter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been around.
I
mean, feel old, but
it's been around, and so when I got the audition, I kind of knew what it was already. And I guess at that point it was like, oh, maybe I'll book it, maybe I don't, and then I did, and it was really fun recording it, because video game recording is very much like, oh, okay, you got to do all these storylines, and then you got to do the efforts, the call outs, blah blah blah, like normal. But it was really cool in this case, because like I got to do her a lot of her efforts and call outs while looking at the scenes of her fighting.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, I get to see like how cool she's being, and like her, like the like it really hits, each time.
Yeah.
And she was really fun, and then getting to speak Japanese as her, like making sure that pronunciation was on point, because it is on point for her. Like that was interesting, and then getting to do that, like, I mean, everything. Like she's just like a really, really fun, like excitable character. But then she's also like kind of drippy too, so like, balance of stuff.
Well, that
and sorry, one last.
No, go for it. You got the floor.
I, I'm like playing her, and then I see the reaction of of the release video and everything, and I love the fighting game community. They're so like positive.
Yeah, they're into it.
Yeah, I respect it. So I'm like, oh, y'all are not toxic, unlike some fandoms.
Yeah, it's interesting how toxic, like shooting games, for example, that clientele can be so toxic, but it's like fighting game is like a real community. It's just weird because that's just the way it is. Like I played in a lot of like Super Smash Brothers tournaments growing up, and it was like there was never anybody that was like super bent out of shape, and everybody just kind of oohing and awing. And it's just
everybody's just humble because it's like, oh,
yeah,
we're all gonna be shit at the beginning,
And I told Banks this a couple days ago. Actually, we were talking somewhat about video games, but it's like when you're playing fighting games, it's go time. Ain't none of that. Ain't no chats. None of that stuff. You put your money where your mouth is, and I think that's kind of why. But it's cool that you got to experience it at any capacity.
Oh yeah, it's
for sure.
Surprising, I guess, because like I didn't.
It is interesting.
I guess marketed as like one of the new characters for the new generation or whatever.
Yep.
So, like when I see her like on the box for Street Fighter and stuff, I'm like, oh,
you.
I just thought she was a fighter. I didn't know she was like that.
And like
pleasant surprise.
The thing I want to piggyback off of is because like D had mentioned with Street Fighter being so old, it's just like these characters, they stay around for so long. Like when Street Fighter 4 came out 2008, and like you have fans that still talk about these characters. So now you got Street Fighter 6 coming out, and like 10 years from now, people are going to still be talking about these characters. The tournaments are still going to be happening. And then hopefully when Street Fighter 7 comes out in 2050, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just like you'll be back there as Kimberly and you'll be doing your thing, and like the fandom will still be loving you because like some of these people, they've been voicing these characters for a long time.
And it's one thing too that's really cool about Kimberly and you voicing her is that basically I still view the game's still pretty young. It's been out for a few months now, but it's like you don't know if she's a fan favorite, and like say she's a high tier fighting character, she's going to be a favorite for a long time.
True.
Yeah. So I mean, we're just going off the basis of it right now and how cool she is and stuff.
My boyfriend AJ Buckles, he was like playing.
Yeah.
He was saying that she and Stephen Fu's character was really fun to play. I forget the character's name, but the guy with the ponytail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both of them are really fun to play, and I've heard a lot that from like just looking at people's reactions, like, oh, Kimberly's like OP, like she's OP. So, okay, we'll see if she gets.
That's what you want to hear. Yeah.
Not, but...
Nah. Usually you gotta work it out on your own. Usually in Street Fighter, they usually don't change too much in the game, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta, if she OP, you gonna have to deal with it, basically.
Gotta love it though.
Hell yeah.
So something that I want to piggyback off of is, back when we first started this interview, you had talked about like growing up and, not really being a part of any community because like there really wasn't one when you were coming up. And when it comes to representation, like we're in Black History Month, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is one of my favorite animes, and I'm a cosplayer and I cosplay, from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So, I've really been getting into this cosplay stuff since 2020. Like me and D, we both have. And every year for Black History Month, like, we interview Black voice actors and actors up here on the podcast. I interview Black cosplayers for my YouTube series, Who's That Cosplayer? So I'm just like, yo, I've never seen an all-Black JoJo's Bizarre Adventure collaboration before. So I'm just like, I'm going to start that. And I released it today. It's gotten so much love. Like everybody that was a part of it, we all love the series and whatnot. And it's the representation that, everybody is seeing here and what everybody is loving, because like a lot of the cosplayers that are a part of this collaboration, they were saying that like they've never been a part of a collaboration before, or they've never been invited to one. And it just sucks because like there's so many talented Black people out there in the cosplay community that don't get that same sort of, you know, spotlight that other cosplayers get, and it sucks. So like that's why I do the Who's That Cosplayer. That's why, you know, I share Black cosplayers and stuff like that. Not just because I'm Black, I share all cosplayers, but it's like I really want to look out, you know, for Black cosplayers because I know how it is to, you know, try to get that representation that you don't get. So, you know, it goes to what you were saying earlier as well about, you know, voicing characters, seeing characters that look like you. Like we're seeing a lot more of that. I mean, like even like Kimberly in Street Fighter. I mean, Street Fighter has always been diverse, but you know, like how does it feel to, you know, grow up, not see Black people in anime, and you know, now being a voice actress, and you know, just seeing like all of these Black characters that you can voice, and like they have, you know, good representation. It's not just a street thug or an idiot or anything like that. Like, how does it feel to be a part of this boom in the voice acting field and animation and stuff?
Surreal, I guess. I never, like, it's the same thing with like how I'm in this position. I never really aspired to, I guess, be a groundbreaker, I guess, but I kind of acknowledge that I am. Like me seeing like a lot of the Black voice actors working right now, they kind of are groundbreakers, not just for like voicing these characters that are just fantastic representation, but also like carving out a space for Black folks to work in this industry, right? Mm-hmm. Like I've had so many times at cons, people will come up to me and be like, oh, I'm trying to be a voice actor. I didn't really feel like I could do it, and then I saw that you were doing it, and so I felt encouraged to do it. And it was it's cool, you know. It's really cool. It's like, oh, I guess it's hard for me to like really process the effect I have on folks, especially because like we spend so much time in a booth like this, you know, like you don't really get to take in the effect you have on folks until you get to go to cons. And being able to see people get excited about these characters, get excited that, you know, Black folks are voicing these characters, and, you know, and seeing like what they do with their cosplays do too, like what, as you were mentioning, like with cosplays, like Black cosplayers are really good. And I was saying this to some voice acting peers that like now there's sort of a new trend in cosplay where not trying to look one-to-one to the character, like they will do their own interpretation and more creative. And that was the Black community that started that, you know, like, and it's so cool to see like what our community is capable of. And so I'm just more excited to see like what we do in the future, especially as I feel more comfortable and, you know, just happy in this space, because I think it's hard to, like, everybody can be like a nerd, anyone can get into anything, but then, you know, I feel like when it comes to like this space in particular, it's like, oh, am I welcomed? I don't know, you know, but I'm just kind of proud to see everyone doing their thing, and I'm happy that Japan and other folks are like trying to show the world more accurately, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that should have always been how it is, but it's cool. And especially like Japan, because they don't have as much like diversity there, you know.
Yeah.
America does, but they're still making the effort, which I think is really cool and admirable. So
it's definitely gotten better over the years, you know, to say the least. It's just development and evolution, to be honest. I mean, we come a long way from the boxers in Dragon Ball, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Come a long way from it.
Yeah.
So
I only have one more question, and then D, you can take your wrap-up question that you do at every episode.
I got it.
All right, but my final question for you, Anairis, is who is one of your favorite Black fictional characters? It can be anybody from an anime, video game, movie, TV show.
Or you could just see Storm. She's actually getting a new set of comics coming out called Storm in the Brotherhood of Mutants. So
I can't wait to like see Marvel take her on. Like I hope.
Hell yeah, I can't wait either. I thought Halle Berry was great. Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, we're gonna respect this character. But I'm excited because I feel like, you know, the X-Men series we grew up watching.
She's definitely a powerful black lady, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, technically she marries T'Challa, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, there's that, but Storm's always been sweet.
Yeah, she's cool. And I love I just like the white.
One of the few people that Wolverine don't listen to. Remember that. Yeah, right.
But favorite
Cyborg 008. That's always my guy. Cisco. So,
I can't actually think. Wow.
I know when I ask people this question, like it is always a hard question because
what favorite black anime character?
No, like just favorite black fictional character because it's like
I would actually say Storm to be honest. She's one of them. Then you have T'Challa.
Well, that's why I like asking this question because like there's so many like an anime.
Static was good too. Virgil. Yeah, he's actually
like finding one where it's like, oh, they're good representation because it's hard to like find ones where it's like, oh, it was actually good representation.
Yeah, I feel you on that.
I like Virgil just because he did grow up in the hood, and I mean it was kind of stereotypical, but he was in the hood. You know what I mean?
You know, him up. Miles Morales.
Okay,
that's another one. That's another one. Yep.
Yeah. But I was gonna say too, like, you know, it could be Steve Urkel because I know like there's a lot of people that they look up to Steve Urkel because it's like they saw he was a nerd and he ended up getting the girl in the end. Even though I thought that he should have stayed with Myra, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you know, people they love Steve Urkel, but yeah, I love Miles Morales.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
When I was growing up, though, I remember being really into Raven Simone and like That's So Raven.
That's so Raven. That's so Raven.
This guy.
Doll where she was like wearing that orange like suit or whatever, like because she had like crazy fashion, but it looked good. It looked
yeah.
So I think like back then, like she was. So it's like you're so cool.
Oh yeah.
Have you watched Raven's Home?
Not yet. I do want to.
Yeah, I was telling D about it. He didn't believe that it was real, but I was just.
I didn't.
It's
bringing everything back. It's you know, we're losing some.
That's fast flying. That's just me.
So D, well.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
All right. So these are two wrap-up questions I ask all of our guests. First question: favorite '80s or '90s movie, or both?
Ooh.
You can use us as references if you're not sure of the year too.
Well, you mentioned Breakfast Club. I do like that a lot.
That's just sweet. It's just a sweet movie. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I watched it the first
they
time.
had me wanting to go to detention or Saturday school. Excuse me. I mean, that what it's like.
Like, dang, like y'all made lifelong friends. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty in Pink is cool.
It also featured. I think that one featured a lot of the same people too. They were all in a bunch of movies. There's St. Elmo's Fire is another one. A lot of them are. It's like 3 or 4 movies that a lot of them are interactive. You know, they're just in there, except for Emilio Estevez, I think, because he went on to do other stuff. But
I know I've seen like a lot of like older movies, but I just can't like.
Yeah, it's just I thought it was interesting that they were just all over there. So
yeah, but I do love older movies.
Okay.
It is like I don't like watching older movies because like they look old. Like why would I watch something old? And I'm like, yeah, but it's cool.
It's not old. It's vintage.
No, D gets on me all the time for watching old movies. He want me to watch a bunch of new stuff, but I'm just like they got mad at me one time because I was watching 227. And they was just like, why are you watching 227 when you could be watching something new? I was like,
no. It's just you have this long list of movies that you need to watch, and we like to see you complete it in our lifetime. That's all. I mean, I don't have 100 years for you to get to that list. It's like a long scroll. Just roll it down the street.
Dang. That's the fear of every nerd. Like, will I experience all the things I've been planning to?
Yeah, like I don't know. It's just I want him to watch those movies. He's got a lot of bases to cover.
I know.
Yep. What you got, Max?
No. I was just saying I know, but no,
okay.
It's still you.
That is a great answer, though. Breakfast Club. Second question: growing up, was there anything that scared you, spooked you, and stayed with you? Whether it was a creepy lullaby, a weird doll, a weird tree you used to pass on your way home at night. What do you have? Everybody has something.
Deoxys from that Pokemon movie.
Oh Jesus!
Oh.
I always loved Pokemon growing up.
Yeah.
My thing.
Uh-huh.
I remember watching that movie at night, and to this day, Deoxys freaks me out because he just coming from space, like
Hell yeah.
sounds it makes is like so creepy.
Yeah.
And just be changing form, and it has like that stare, like million-yard long stare, and I don't like it.
Hell yeah.
I remember when I was like, after I watched that movie, I think I was gonna go to the bathroom, so I went to the bathroom, and then I like looked straight down the hall, which we had the lights off, and I'm like, oh my god, Deoxys is gonna get me. So
Hell yeah, you gonna hear that noise, you gonna know, you ain't gotta turn around. There he is.
And then he was kidnapping people too, so it was like,
snatch him up. Hell yeah, wonderful answers. Captain?
All right, well, yeah, we're here at the end of the interview. Anairis, thank you so much for joining us up here on a brand new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.
Of course, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. We had a fun time. And before we let you go, let everybody in social media land know where they can find you at.
All right. So you can find me at Anairis _Q on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not really using Twitter that much right now. I'm kind of a bit more on Instagram, but little social media break, but you can find me there. And I think I also have a Facebook page, which is just like /Anairis QUI. So look me up. I have a very unique name. You'll find my stuff pretty easily.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. And D, where can they find you at?
As always, you can find me at rebellious_D23 Instagram.com. And Banks, if they need a hero, fine, sir, where can they find one?
You can find me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, at KingBenji_Banks on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Benjamin Banks. That should be the first person to pop up. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. And with that being said, thank you everybody for watching this brand new interview. Make sure you check out some more interviews we have up here on the channel. Keep that pinky up. Stay positive. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Peace. Thank you for watching a brand new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure that you hit that like button and you subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content on our channel. Make sure you check out our podcast where we release new episodes every Tuesday and the video of that episode is uploaded on Friday. And you can find new episodes of our podcast on all podcast platforms. Make sure you follow all the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks social media accounts at Leveling Up Banks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, we have a Patreon. If you're feeling generous and would love to donate to us, it's at Leveling Up Banks. And huge shout out to our patrons. We really appreciate you and thank you for the support. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.